Hey everybody, Brian Good here. Here's an update. This is part 2 of the blog here for tonight. Update on some of the data that's been rolling in this late afternoon, and then we'll briefly touch on the longer term, as promised. I'll get you there. Again, the outlook tonight, no worries. Tomorrow, still the same here. The enhanced risk, again, along and south of 65, and slight risk in the yellow zone. We're expecting this map to be updated 11:30 to 12, somewhere around there tonight. So we will have an update later on. So look for social media to see those being sent out. I'm sure everybody will. But we'll see how the new day one outlook, and that the new day one outlook, as you're heading into the day of the event, it will then break it down on the tornado threat, health threat, and damage wind threat. It'll break it down more than just an overall threat like this map is. So day one is a little more informative. And we'll have more details to look at there. All right. Now, as far as the other alerts that came out today, that's a wind advisory. This isn't shocking. We were mentioning this in the blog several days ago. This looked like a wind advisory set up for Tuesday, and sure enough, that's what we're looking at here. It won't kick in until 1 tomorrow afternoon, but pretty much tomorrow afternoon all the way through the event, the winds over 40 miles per hour will be a factor. So here's Futurecast. This is our RPM in-house model, and again here the wind arrows and the temperature. Now tonight we're going to drop down. Notice we go from a northeast wind to more of an east wind. In some cases southeast. That's a sign. You can see the slant even of the clouds. That is the warm front beginning to push in just as the sun's coming up. Now, as it pushes in, it's going to increase the clouds. It'll squeeze out a few rain showers with it as well, all the way through about 11 a.m. And then once it goes north, now this is where we usually run into problems in the wintertime. These warm fronts get stuck on it, so they only go so far, and then we end up cloudy and cool, and then by the time the cold front arrives, we're not that unstable for anything to happen, and it's our southern counties that see the action. The dynamics with this low pressure is so impressive that this warm front's going to slide way to the north, so we don't have any doubt on the warm front getting stuck here. It's going to keep going. In fact, going so far north, the warm sector is going to become capped, as you'll see in a moment, and that'll allow for some breaks in the clouds, some sunshine, and anytime you get a mix of sun and clouds, that increases the winds. That is what has led to the wind advisory. If we were to stay cloudy all day tomorrow afternoon, we wouldn't be as windy and probably not an advisory, to be honest. But it's that balance of sunshine and cloudy and sunshine and cloudy. You actually cause the pressure to go up and down, and that creates the wind. And that's the scenario for tomorrow afternoon. Record of 68. We're shooting higher than that. I think we've been overachieving all weekend, if you haven't noticed, and I think we'll overachieve again tomorrow. Now, at this point, this is when we're starting to see the cells break out to our west. Likely very cellular activity. Could get a few warnings already at this point, 4 in the afternoon, back toward the Wabash into Paducah, Kentucky. Then as the activity moves in our direction, now this is not going to be exactly how the radar is going to look at 7:30. It could be off an hour or two. We've got to keep that in mind. But what's important is you look at the signatures that the 4K, this is a 4-kilometer analysis here, and notice these little hooks to them in a way. Boeing segments. These are supercells here that will have to be watched, and they are embedded within the line and several different lines moving through here during that time. So this is the reason why the tornado threat, I still think, is going to be pretty much in this area west. And I'll show you another map to kind of back that up a little bit. But it's going to be awful close to I-65 because eventually it'll become linear because the low-level jet, which we can't see, but it will kick in tomorrow night. And when that low-level jet kicks in, the rain band, the linear band, is going to expand and become very heavy rain. And you can have an embedded tornado within that, but more straight-line winds and very, very heavy rain. And watch what happens when the low-level jet kicks in after 7 or 8 o'clock. We begin to see that band expand. We become now a heavy rain threat issue for flash flood warnings by 11 o'clock. And still, a squall line is embedded inside that. So there could still be some wiggles, if you will. We've got to watch for an isolated tornado warning. Otherwise, severe thunderstorm warnings probably would rule the day, and then heavier band of rain will push off to the east. Notice we don't cool off rapidly on Wednesday. And we may have to raise our numbers, in fact, because the secondary front that has the colder air with it, it's going to be lagging. So we may squeeze another day in the 50s before we cool down on Wednesday night into Thursday. And we'll probably have some drizzle, by the way. There could go some freezing drizzle, maybe early Thursday morning. Putting that in the back of our minds for now. Thursday morning, chance of freezing drizzle. Worry about that later. All right. Now, here's something I get a chance to show earlier because I didn't have time. The cap. We record that as SIN, basically on maps. But anywhere you see this values, this tells us, this is tomorrow afternoon, by the way. It tells us a good cap is in place along 65 and pretty much all around where the front is. Warm front here, and here's the cold front here. So in this zone in the middle, this is where your storm threat begins to develop. But we are protected by the cap, warmer air aloft. and that's why I think we're going to have some sunshine, and that's why we're going to overachieve in temperature. That's also the same zone, once the cap is gone, that the higher dew points are found, and that's, again, the next trigger. There's no cap in place, so you're going to get storms to initiate fairly rapidly in this zone first. So this is a good initiation zone to pick out. Dew point 60 or higher, that is impressive. Again, even in the spring, to have it in February is even more impressive. Now, your best tornado potential here for the Helicity type index that we're looking at, I think the best chance to get rotating storms and some tornado warnings is going to be in this zone, a little higher here across Mississippi and Alabama. And by the time the line and the system moves closer to us, we begin to lose that tornado threat. It focuses more on central Tennessee into Alabama. And again, we become more linear here, mainly because the storms begin to block a lot of the flow here and become more of a linear flow of heavy rain across Kentucky. Here's the latest sounding from the NAM 4K. And again, it's hard to read. A couple things to note. It's got some dry air mixed in. Again, the green is moisture, red is your temperature line. Got some dry air. It tells us the potential for downdrafts is there. In fact, the downdraft cape, which was hardly there earlier, is now going up. It's hard to read it, over 1,000 now. So there could be some downdraft winds with some of these cells in the afternoon. It's very unusual to see that in February. LCL is low, but not that low. I mean, we're not below the point, below a mile in height that I start to worry about the tornado potential. I know the hazard it's listed as marginal tornado. Okay, I would agree with that. I'm not that overly concerned, though, because if this was on the other side of the 850 mark, I would be a little more concerned. Now, to our west, it is. Here in Louisville, it's just above it. It's something we will be monitoring, of course, as we get closer in time. Our LIs all negative. That indicates certainly some lightning and thunder going on around the area. And again, we have some cape. The forecast cape overall is about 1,000 potential out of this. And this is a hodiograph. You may hear this a lot. Anytime we see like a looping type of hodiograph, that also indicates the potential for rotating storms. And so there's a lot to look at here, and I don't want to go through all these details. It just tells us that, yes, marginal tornado, okay, I would buy that. But I think the straight line wind threat is going to be the bigger threat because there's a tremendous amount of wind energy here just above the tree line. I mean, this is a lot of strong winds that it's not going to take much to push them down to the ground level. And that's what we got to watch for. Yes, there is directional shear. You can see the winds are southeast and then it goes southwest at this point. So that's, again, why you get a looping hodiograph there. All right, so we get past Tuesday night, hopefully without any major issues. And then as we head into the weekend, we begin to lift back up as far as the colder air goes. We get some milder air that work its way back into our region. Models are trying to indicate some kind of a southern system is going to be developing here across the southern states and goes up into the northeast. Maybe a big winter storm for them. This point isn't like that impressive yet. We'll see how it plays out. But what is even more impressive, though, is what's behind that. It is showing one heck of an Arctic intrusion. It looks brief, but it arrives on the 10th. So the following week. And it's got good support on the operational and on the ensembles. I mean, to see the ensembles go as low as they are is pretty impressive. So this could be very, very cold air arriving on the 10th or so of February. Something we will be monitoring very carefully as we get closer. But that's just a teaser. The longer term, we'll worry about that once we get past tomorrow night. All right, guys, make sure you watch Kevin tonight at 11 with an update. And, of course, tomorrow, lots of updates on what's happening coming your way. Stay tuned.